The officers assigned to provide security the night Christopher Wallace was murdered had previously worked private security for the man whose label was his fiercest rival. That's not a theory, that's a fact on record. LAPD policy prohibited it. The department knew nothing was done. Every other video about this case starts with the shooting. This one starts here, with the people responsible for keeping him alive already standing on the wrong side of the story before a single shot was fired. Because if the security detail had a documented conflict of interest with the man who killed him, what does that tell you about the investigation that came after? 29 years, 3 theories, 2 officers who never should have been near that building, and a case that, unlike its companion in Las Vegas, has never had a single person charged, arrested, or tried. This is the more complete failure of the two. The bullets that killed Christopher Wallace were so rare that FBI investigators traced them to exactly 2 distributors in the entire United States. One in Corona, California, one in New Jersey. Then agents searched a suspect's home and found the same ammunition sitting in a drawer. Los Angeles, the Peterson Automotive Museum, a party promoting life after death, Wallace's second album, released 2 weeks after this night, though nobody there knew that yet. He had a flight to London booked. He skipped it to be here. At 12:45 a.m., his convoy pulled away from the museum, stopped at a red light, Wilshire Boulevard and South Fairfax Avenue. A black Chevrolet Impala eased alongside the passenger side. The driver's window came down. Multiple shots, 4 hit Wallace. He was pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. He was 24. Dozens of witnesses stood on that sidewalk. Not one gave police a usable description of the shooter. The Impala turned a corner and was never recovered. 6 months earlier in Las Vegas, a different rapper had died the same way, car window down, muzzle flash, gone before anyone could react. Different city, same silence afterward. You know that case. This one is different in a way that matters more than the similarities. Russell Poole was the LAPD detective who caught the case. What he found, and what happened to what he found, became a second, quieter tragedy running underneath the first. Poole's attention landed on David Mack, an LAPD officer who had worked off-duty security for Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records. Mack was arrested later that year for a $722,000 Bank of America robbery. When investigators searched his home, they found something else. GECO 9mm ammunition, German-made, metal piercing, the exact rare round that had killed Wallace, sitting in the home of an officer with a documented tie to his rival's label. Mack was never charged in connection with the murder. The ammunition was never used against him in that case. Poole came to believe his own department had buried the connection, along with a second officer, Rafael Perez, who allegedly told a cellmate he'd been near the museum the night of the shooting and had called Mack during it. In 1999, Poole resigned. Not quietly, in protest. The day before his own retirement would have made resignation unnecessary. He spent the next 16 years pursuing the case as a private investigator, writing about it, testifying to it, refusing to let it close. On August 19, 2015, Russell Poole sat down with Los Angeles County Sheriff's homicide investigators to discuss a case. He had a heart attack in that room. He never got up. 29 years, 3 theories, none of them proven, none of them dead. Theory 1, the gang theory. A Southside Crips member, financially motivated, working independently. The original angle reported by the LA Times. It never produced an arrest, and over time it's the theory investigators have leaned on least. Theory 2, the corrupt cop theory. Mack and Perez, both LAPD, both with documented death row ties, either orchestrating or directly carrying out the murder. This was Poole's theory, and he held it until the day he died. It's backed by the ammunition match and by Perez's alleged confession to a cellmate. It has never been tested in a courtroom because no one was ever charged. Theory 3, the Suge Knight theory. In 2009, the LAPD and FBI documented a statement from a woman who'd visited Suge Knight in jail posing as a legal assistant. She told investigators Knight instructed her, from behind bars, to arrange Wallace's murder retaliation for Tupac. She said she paid Wardell Pucci Faust, a Bloods associate, who carried it out at the Peterson Museum. She was granted immunity. Her identity has never been made public. Faust was killed in an unrelated shooting in 2003 before anyone could charge him with anything. The statement exists in federal files. It has never been used in court. Knight is currently serving 28 years for a 2015 hit-and-run that killed one person, a conviction that has nothing to do with this case. Present all three honestly, and you're left with the same conclusion investigators reached decades ago. Each theory has real evidence behind it, and none of them has enough to survive a jury. December 2025. 50 Cent's 4-part Netflix docuseries, Sean Combs, The Reckoning, adds a fourth name to a case that already had 3 theories and no charges. The series includes an allegation from Kirk Burroughs, a Bad Boy Records co-founder, that Wallace had a European press tour scheduled the week he died, and that Sean Combs pushed him to stay in Los Angeles instead to party, on rival turf, at the height of the feud. Burroughs frames that decision as the reason Wallace was in the city at all that night. It sits alongside an older claim from retired Detective Greg Kading, that Combs offered a bounty to have Knight and Tupac killed, and that Knight's retaliation in this theory extended to Wallace. Combs was convicted in July 2025 on federal prostitution transportation charges, not on anything connected to either murder. He has never been charged in relation to Wallace's death. Nothing in the documentary is a legal finding. It's an allegation from a producer who is also a longtime rival, released into a case that already had 30 years of unresolved theories waiting for a new one. The Wallace family didn't wait for the LAPD to solve it. They sued. Voletta Wallace filed first in 2002, built on Poole's evidence, alleging the department had enough to make an arrest and chose not to. That case reached a jury in 2005 and collapsed into a mistrial. A judge found the LAPD had withheld evidence mid-trial. In 2007, the family refiled. Voletta, Wallace's widow Faith Evans, and his children, naming Perez and a second officer directly, seeking $400 million, alleging the department had actively concealed what it knew. If that allegation had been proven, the city's exposure ran into the hundreds of millions. That's not a small detail. It means the LAPD's incentive to keep this case from resolving wasn't only institutional, it was financial. The suit moved through dismissal, refiling, and reinstatement for 3 more years. In 2010, the family let it go not because they'd stopped believing it, but because the evidence available to a civil court wasn't enough to finish it. The city never had to answer for the allegation in front of a jury. It just ran out the clock. She's the reason this case never became a footnote. Every lawsuit carried her name first. Every reopened investigation had her pressure behind it. For 28 years, when the world was ready to let her son's murder fade into unsolved case trivia, Voletta Wallace made sure it didn't. On February 21, 2025, she died at her home in Pennsylvania under hospice care of natural causes. She was 78. She never got the answer. Not a name, not an arrest, not a trial, nothing that would let her stop asking. The case is still officially open. The LAPD still describes it that way. What that means, 29 years in, with the lead detective who believed in it dead, a decade, key witnesses dead, and every lawsuit closed without resolution, is a question the department has never had to answer out loud. Here's what actually separates this from Tupac's case. In August 2026, a man goes on trial in Las Vegas for Tupac Shakur's murder. Whatever the verdict, something will happen in a courtroom that has never happened in this case. Someone will answer for it under oath in public, with consequences attached. That's not the same as justice, but it's a floor, it's something. Christopher Wallace's murder has no floor, no trial date, no defendant, no hearing on any calendar anywhere for anyone. The detective who spent 16 years refusing to let it go died in a sheriff's office in 2015, mid-sentence on a different case. The mother who spent 28 years refusing to let it go died in February of last year, still without an answer. He was 24 years old. If someone out there still knows what happened on Wilshire Boulevard on March 9, 1997, we don't know who they are. We don't know what they have. And at this point, we don't know if it would matter. Tell me which theory you believe and why in the comments. The next full case is already up.